it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. For those repeat listeners, welcome back because you're in store for a great interview. For those new to joining us, welcome to Her Success Story, and I'm anxious to hear what you think about. Today, my guest is Dr. Jane Tornatore. She is a brain geek, which I love because I'm not, and self-compassion expert based in Seattle, Washington. She's a coach, a therapist, a speaker, and an author. She's a woman who has made change in her life, her career, and stands for so many others to be at their best. One of the things I admire about Jane and getting to know her is her work is humorous, which I love a good sense of humor. Practical, yep, that's me. And a simple approach. So this is what we connected on. She helps her clients become aware of the unconscious beliefs that keep them stuck and unsatisfied. Lord knows I've had those in my own career, my own life. And we had some interesting points of conversation we're going to be talking about. One of the most important things I want you to make a note of, and you can see this in the show note, Jane is an author of Everything is Perfect, Just Not Me, a roadmap for self-acceptance. Jane, thanks for joining me here today.
Thanks, Ivy. I am so looking forward to our conversation.
So, one of the things as we were chatting about is we were talking about beliefs and perspectives of beliefs. And you and I were talking about like our journeys, right? You're originally from the East Coast. We were talking about our families, and we've touched base on a bunch of things. And you talked a little bit, and I love this, the transition of when you you studied to be a therapist for like 10 years. You went for your master's, right?
PhD, yeah.
Your
master's
PhD.
and PhD, separate, yeah.
So
I love school.
So let's talk first about how you got into this originally and where you are today, and then we're going to launch from there.
So I've got two actually origin stories. I think I'll share the one that took me back to grad school. I was working in advertising in New York City, and my sister dragged us all to a family therapist, and the therapist started the session with this. She said, "My job is to put myself out of business." And I'm like, I'm in advertising in New York. This makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that's not what we're cut off on. That's not what we learn on Madison Avenue in New York back in the day.
I know. So my jaw probably dropped open. And she said, well, the more families I help, when they become healthier, and if their kids go on to have partners and kids and they become healthier, then their kids go on to have partners and kids and they become healthier. She said, pretty soon health spreads around the world and I'm out of a job. And I went, I'm quitting advertising. I want to do that. So I went and gave them
some guts.
Oh, yeah, it did. But it was also...
I got to call you out right now because that takes some guts. Especially women in advertising a bunch of years ago, we were the anomaly. We worked hard to get our positions. We worked hard to keep our positions. So it took some guts to be able to walk away from that and go to do what's next.
Thank you. Although I sucked at it because I realized in grad school, I have ADHD and dyslexia. I'm not good with details. I'm really not good with numbers. And I was a media planner. It's all about numbers. And so I worked like a dog because it's really important for me to be successful and do well. So work like a dog. I had acne, but I wasn't happy and I wasn't performing the way I wanted to perform. So in a way, going to this therapist was like a godsend of like, oh, there are other things to do that I would be much better at, right? So, but I loved escaping because there was one woman there I so admired. She was the one woman in our office that didn't wear pantyhose.
Wow, that was pretty radical then.
It was radical. And she was we all so admired her. So one of the things I was thinking about, one of the questions you asked is what advice would you give to successful women or any women when they're in the beginning of success or at the top of their success or just keep moving up, is question the rules, right? we learned these rules of how you should be as a woman, as a business person, as just a person in the world. And the more I do my own work and work with my clients, the more I realize our rules are keeping us like bound in behaviors that aren't really true to us. So for me, that's what our path is as we expand in our own lives, our relationships, and our businesses, is finding our rules, the ones that work for us. Advertising rules didn't work for me. I hated pantyhose and I hated numbers, right? But that woman was like, oh, you can be, and she was super successful. You can be successful and not wear pantyhose. And at that age, to me, I was in my very young 20s, it was mind blowing.
And, I think there's something to be said for understanding, knowing the rules, understanding the rules. There's a fine line between somebody who's a radical rule breaker, who doesn't choose to understand why there are rules,
right.
There's value in the rules, right? We have laws, there's value in laws, right? There's certain rules we do not break. Okay. It has dire consequences.
Right.
And there's other rules of the sense of, like, I'll always say, I need to understand, when I work with clients, I need to understand the rules of their business model.
Yes.
And then I need to be able to work with them to say, what could we stretch? What could we expand? What could we push on the envelope, so to speak?
Exactly.
It doesn't mean we tear up all the rules, but we see what today has value, what doesn't. I have a drawer full of pantyhose that I might put on 1 or 2 pair a year. And that's basically tights in the winter on a cold day,
right?
Wearing a dress or a skirt. And it's about warmth and not about tights. Or
right.
Right. It's about layering for me. But that's where there's, I love what you're saying here. So you, first of all, let's call it out. Dyslexia, ADHD, and you went back to school for your PhD and you didn't let it stop you. And that's breaking some rules.
It is. And the funny thing is I didn't even realize until I was in the middle of my dissertation that I had ADHD and dyslexia. Actually, I knew I had dyslexia once I hit college, but ADHD, I had no clue. I was diagnosed and it was so much easier after I found out I was diagnosed and I got some meds to help me. It was like, this is how other people study. So as you can see, working super hard is one of my through lines. And one of my rules I learned is you have to work very hard. And it made sense because I had ADHD. I couldn't focus at all. But it also really, it makes me also appreciate, like, if I really want something, the obstacles don't really matter. Like, I will just keep going because if I really, really want something, and for me, it's to determine, what do I want something for me, or what did I learn I should want? Like, once I went into therapy.
Let's look at this for a second, because I think that's very interesting. When you want something for you, there is no stopping you.
Right.
Okay. But there's this important component of understanding, do I want this for me, or do I want this because the outside world says we're supposed to want this?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's so true. And I could, oh my goodness, you're bringing me back like down memory lane on so much of my own life, right? Of saying things from as a dancer, oh, you have to be this age before you do this. It's like, no, but that was the rule of the belief system at that time.
Yep.
Then when I got into printing, the belief system was women don't sell printing, women don't own printing companies,
right.
Women do this in the field, right? And then defining what I see as my own rules.
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about belief systems, because when we talk about belief systems, we're looking at mindset. And I think mindset is one of the most phenomenal components of breaking through what's possible for us.
Yes.
So you and I were chatting away and you were like, I don't know how you and I got on this side conversation one day, but we got on this side conversation and we talked about paying off student loans.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit. Okay. So listeners point in fact, okay, many people have student loans out there. This is not literally, I was just on the phone today with a client about paying off student loans. I don't make this stuff up. This was literally about 90 minutes ago. Don't make it up. This is not video, but Jane's mouth is hanging open. Like, really? I'm like, I promise. And from Washington State. This was, call out to this, this is not unusual, right? So we very often in life, we have debt. We have, if it's not student loans, we have mortgages, we have car loans, we have credit card debt. I know I used a credit card in starting this business as basically the funding to start this business, as well as keeping my old company up to create funding.
Right. Yeah.
When we start a business, you need capital. So, going to school is part of the capital of starting your next career.
Yes. Yeah.
So why did you, a little bit of sharing your story of what you learned when you got your PhD in psychotherapy? Like, I want to be correct here because I don't know what the actual degree was in.
The technical name is Human Development and Family Studies with a specialization in marriage and family therapy.
Thank you.
Very long technical title.
And you started building a practice then? What was your transition in the next steps of that career as you got your PhD?
Well, here's the courage part. I didn't have the courage to start as my own therapist. So I knew academia, so I continued. I was a project manager for studies. And so I was doing that and just working from study to study. And I loved it. But I didn't wake up in the morning going, I'm changing the world, like was my original mission. So one time, one grant was ending, and I thought, I could I could apply and work on another grant and another study, or I could finally do what I went to grad school to do. Because the rule was, you can't be just a therapist where I went to school. You had to be an academician and a researcher and a therapist. And so I knew that I couldn't be just a therapist according to those rules. Well, I was playing the rules, being in academia, doing research, wasn't doing the therapy. But one day I woke up and went, it's time now. This grant is ending. It's time to start. And that was my leap of faith. And I have the funniest story. So I was working, and my last day, I went to a coffee shop near where I worked. And I went into a very small coffee shop and I said, today is my last day as an employee. And he said, really? Congrats, coffee is on me. And I said, yeah, I'm really scared. And he said, I know, I was scared when I opened this place too. And everybody told me it won't work. I shouldn't do it. But he said, you know what I decided? I could be king. I may not be king forever, but I could be king for a day. And this business for me is my king for the day. And I went, oh, thank you.
That's
and
huge.
I took that. It was huge. It was such a beautiful, couldn't be better timing of you go, girl. It may not work, but you're going for it. And that's the important thing. And that was, almost 20 years ago. So he was right.
So, we have, you got your PhD and that acquired a little bit of debt.
Yes. So all my life, my family had money issues. So I brought the rule in my family is you never quite have enough money. You always have enough, but you never quite have enough for extra. So I was starting my business and it didn't start super because I wasn't a very good marketer. So I started very slow, but every year I'd make more money. Every year I'd make more money and every year I'd pay off more debt and I'd keep paying debt the same amount.
Yeah. And I want to that is huge. Go you. You were slowly growing a business that you took a leap. You left a paycheck behind and you took a leap to build. So let's acknowledge that because that's it's a big step and it should be acknowledged and congratulated.
Thank you. It is a big step. Yay me. And that's a wonderful reminder because I think many women, especially women who are successful, forget that part. So Ivy, thank you for that. So anyway, so I was making more money every year, but I wasn't like every month I would be like, do I have enough money for that bottle of Dr. Bronner's? Can I afford this turtleneck? Like every month I was just scraping the edge of having enough.
You were just on the survive line.
I was just on the survival line, just like I was in graduate school, but I was making more money than graduate school. So this was starting to really not make sense to me. I would look at the bottom line. I would look at what I was spending, look at what I was making. And I'm like, I should have more money. What's up? So I just at that time learned about a gratitude practice. And I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. So every morning I would feel gratitude for 30 seconds. I wouldn't list gratitude because I started critiquing my list.
I get that.
Right. So I'm like, well, this is not quite doing what I wanted to do. So I would just feel gratitude and that did it. So I was feeling gratitude.
I want to pause here for a second.
Yeah.
Because this is another beautiful and brilliant piece. How we judge what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
Okay. Because I know I bought gratitude books. I've gotten gratitude apps on my phones. I have to make, and then I'm like hearing Jane, I'm like, she just stopped and paused and acknowledged. And so it's not about it goes back to the damn pantyhose. It goes down to the damn pantyhose. Everybody in advertising in Madison Avenue back in the day, our time, you were supposed to walk around the city in pantyhose. I had a lot of pantyhose. You had a lot of pantyhose. And
I did.
This woman, just like, oh, well, there's gratitude books and there's gratitude apps, and you have to write your gratitude down and you do a first thing and you do the end of it. There's all these rules. And then it's like, okay, here goes Jane. You had the model of the woman who wore no pantyhose. We're going to get to the end of the story, listeners. Jane and I have a very good time together. So deal with this. And have fun with us. But the bottom line is you figured out how to do it your way.
Yes.
You do it by your own rules. So you pause and you just do a gratitude practice in the morning, which you pause and you just acknowledge within yourself what you're grateful for. And I love that. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I don't even acknowledge what I'm grateful for anymore. I literally just feel the sensation of gratitude because I can't critique that. I can't critique feeling gratitude. I just feel gratitude. It's wonderful. Like it gets my left brain critique judge out of the picture and it gets my right brain. It's all good. This feels good. Let's do more of this in the picture. So for any of you who critique your list, find something that you're grateful for, just like one thing, and then notice as you're grateful, feel what it feels like in your body. For me, my heart just kind of bursts and gets all warm. And then that's how you feel gratitude. So just feel that when you want to do your gratitude practice, just feel it and see the critique go away.
So you started this practice.
Yes, I started that practice. And I also, and Ivy, this is how money deficit minded I was, that I would buy myself 1 cup of coffee a week, whether I could afford it or not. That's how skating the line I was in my mindset and my finances. So I did that. And at the end of the year, it's kind of hysterical. For the first time in 5 years, I didn't make any more money, which was like, what? I didn't, what? That was it.
Then you could go into that whole critique thing.
Exactly. But I was eating dinner out. I had savings. I was still paying off debt at the same rate. So even though I made no more money, I had more money to spend on things that I wanted.
And you appreciate and invested in a lifestyle of value and living versus a lifestyle of lack. Exactly.
Even if it was 1 cup of coffee and 30 seconds of gratitude, that's what shifted that money level. Then, as we talked before, each new level, new devil. Then it took me a while to break I went to 125,000 and I skated at that for about 5 years. I seem to have this 5-year kind of trend. And then I broke through that ceiling by doing more mindset work. But it's just fascinating of how, I had these rules of I can't have any extra at the end of the month. Now I can't make any more than 125,000. And it's just like these unconscious rules or blocks that I have until I unblock them.
So when you work with your clientele today, and we're keeping it simple, right? And we're going to go into some actionable things. What can our listeners be aware of? What can they take a simple actionable step, or what is your tip?
Awesome. This is one that if I ever have a gravestone, unless I'm buried under a tree, that's a distinct possibility. But if I ever have a gravestone, it's going to
carve it into the tree.
We can carve it into the tree. Brilliant.
We'll carve it into the tree.
Carve it. We'll just carve it. Or I'll carve a stone and have it put on top. But it would be, if I were queen of the world, I would ban the word should, must, have to, need. And for Midwesterners and apparently Australians, gotta. And I would ban them because they create stress. And I don't know about you, but I learned to use those words to motivate me, to make me be a better, more successful person. Like, I got to do this. I should do this. I have to do this. I need to do this today. I have to do this. And what I realized one day, well, probably not one day, it was probably a slow growing realization, is those words really create stress in my body. Like, you know how gratitude feels so yummy? Should, must, have to, need. Like, you want to do an experiment with me?
Sure.
Awesome. So
because I happen to believe those are all negative words. I also raise my level of awareness to do my damnedest to keep it out of my vocabulary and notice it in others who I care about and invite them to shift it.
Beautiful. And then people
and shifting, your what you put out into the world is very often what you receive back in the world.
Yes.
Hey, I'm not going to go all that woo, and I'm a pretty damn practical person like you, and practical simple actions is one of the things we're aligned on. Mm-hmm. I know what I put out into the world, I receive back.
Right.
If we think about it, when we love a child, how much love comes back to us on something simple, practical, and actionable.
True. And also on a kind of more body chemistry, brain geek level, if we think about something we need to do, and it produces stress with that word need. And there were people who were arguing with me, no, I need to do this. I'm like, okay, but how does that feel? When we feel stressed with what we're thinking about doing, we're less likely to do it because it's associated with stress in our unconscious and conscious brain. So we're going to put it off. We're going to, do something else. Or we'll feel stress until we do it. So that thing on our list just carries stress with it all the time, which we inherently, unconsciously avoid. This is why we check our phones all the time. This is why we eat. This is why we drink. This is why we do drugs, to avoid that feeling. So if we use words like, it'd be helpful, it'd be a good idea, we literally lower the stress in our body. And so we're more likely to do the thing that's on our list because it's important to do anyway. So there's an aspect of what we put out, we bring in. Absolutely. And on the very body level, what we don't feel bad about, we're more likely to do.
We're more likely, we embrace it, we do it. I'll always say, when we show up and do things with a smile, with that sense of higher energy, the sense of happiness.
Yes.
I know so many people who are not numbers people. Okay. I'm a numbers geek. I'm not a word geek. So word like writing, reading, and I do a lot of it, it does not come as easily to me as playing with numbers. Like the number story is easier for me. Yet it doesn't mean I don't do the others. So what can I do in shifting the mindset to embrace the other?
Exactly.
For ease and flow.
Yes. And sometimes we can't embrace it. That one of the things with the positivity movement that I personally have an issue with is, well, it's because when I first learned about affirmations, which I think are brilliant, but I was just after grad school and I'm like, I'm fabulously wealthy and debt-free. And my whole body went, oh, no, you aren't. Stop lying, Jane. So I literally felt worse with the affirmations. But then I found this woman, Dana Wilde, who wrote the book, Train Your Brain. And she helped me figure out how to make affirmations that make me feel a little better. Like instead of saying, I want to do my taxes. You're a numbers person. Do you want to do your taxes?
Absolutely not. Nor do I want to do all the paperwork that's involved.
No, nobody wants to do that. But if we're like, I want to do my taxes, our body's going to go, you're lying. Stop. And we're going to actually increase our stress. But if we can say, it'd be helpful to do taxes, it would be a good idea. I will feel much better when they're done. Then we can, if we can't motivate ourselves to feel good about it, we can motivate ourselves to at least feel like not stressed about it, calm. And sometimes that's the best we can do.
That makes an enormous amount of sense.
Yeah, because, hard driving people, for me, like I want to do it. I want to be happy about everything. I'm going to love doing everything. And I just don't. So that's the perfectionist part of letting go of like, it's okay if I just do it without dread. That's good enough. You don't have to be happy about it. Just do it. That's fine.
I actually think, let's shout out to Nike on the best tagline
Just
ever
do it.
is
Yeah.
just do it.
Just do
And
it.
Some days it's like that. That's the little Post-it note in my brain of, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do it because then it's done. And then I can move on to what's next.
Exactly. I don't have to do it the best. I don't have to do it perfectly. Sometimes just getting it done is great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how can our listeners learn more about you? You definitely want to, listeners. I'm going to give a shout out to Jane's book because I think the title is absolutely phenomenal. And the book follows the title, just so you know. Everything is perfect, not me. A roadmap for self-acceptance. And I think that is so important, to release the judgment of self.
Yes, that's it. And that's going back to the pantyhose and back to the rules. Part of what we learned was to judge ourselves to be better people. And when we can be kind and self-compassionate to be better people, we'll actually get there faster. Yeah.
And now they do have lovely creams that make your legs look so beautiful. We don't need pantyhose.
Right.
Nor do we care.
Nor do we care. I know. I realized my mom stopped wearing shorts when her legs start getting, a little more wrinkly and stuff. And I made a vow to myself, I'm never going to stop wearing shorts. I don't care what my legs look like. I don't care how old I am. I'm going to be wearing shorts because that rule's stupid.
Watch out, listeners, when Jane and I are trudging around talking about the wine country in our shorts, that will be a hate in the future.
That's right. And we'll be happy with our legs, or at least at peace with them. So you can your listeners can find me at everydaylove.me. And I've got a little mini free course. You can go to everydaylove.me and click the tab course, and it'll download a way to help us learn to trust our intuition using our body so we can make decisions with more ease and less self-doubt.
Love that. Well, listeners, check out the link in the show notes. Definitely go to Jane's site, learn more. And while you're in those show notes, hit subscribe. We come into your inbox every Monday morning, or your podcast app every Monday morning with great new content, great new guests. And take a moment. You stopped and listened today. Take a moment and say, what resonated with you? What meant something to you in this conversation? And then create your action of what are you going to do about it? Are you going to pause I know for me, and I will put this out there, I am going to shift and just pause to feel gratitude daily and feel the feeling of gratitude daily. I thought that was beautiful. And that's my takeaway today. So thank you, Jane.
Yay.
Feel free to pop your takeaways into the little notes below. We look forward to hearing more from you. Check out and learn more about Dr. Jane. She is awesome, as you can tell. And thanks for showing up with me today on Her Success Story.
This was absolutely delightful. It was a great start to my morning. Thank you, Ivy.
See you next time.